the founding father of Gilead. He took away our country. He had to pay for what he did.
One thing that I wanted to talk to you about first was Pancakes.
Yay! I'm so glad someone wants to talk about the pancakes.
We'll talk about the pancakes.
Thank you, Nikki.
What did that symbolically mean? Like, what did that moment mean for her? Because it's post-killing Fred. She dives into them.
I could not love you more for bringing up that scene. Thank you very much. We had a crew screening last night and I was sitting next to Bruce and I leaned over to him and I was like, I think this is one of my favorite scenes. What it means is it's a feast. It is warriors coming back from the war and feasting. It's a bacchanal. It's about, I think also seeing women eat like that is so raw and interesting. And it's so kind of visually interesting. And all those women who shot that scene were so fantastic. And they went to town and we ate sausages and pancakes and eggs. They were so committed and I was so appreciative and I was committed as well. And it was a really, but it's about them enjoying the spoils of their battle, enjoying the victory.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of pancakes were eaten, I'm sure, and it was not a difficult task. It was brilliant to watch.
Well, luckily I was directing, so I was able to do as minimal takes as possible.
I wanted to talk to you about directing. Did you do 1, 2, and 8? Were those the ones that you directed?
1, 2, and 10, the finale.
Oh, and 10. Okay. I haven't seen 10. They haven't shown it to me yet.
It's not done yet. I haven't seen it.
Wow. Okay.
No, you definitely haven't seen it.
You have such a unique, like, I know when you've directed an episode, and Bruce has said that you turn the camera into an actor. And without spoilers, the end of episode 2, there is a moment. Without spoilers, can you talk about directing a moment like that? If you can talk about it without spoilers.
Yeah. I'll try. Yeah, I mean, for me as an actor, I've always obviously used the camera as a tool. To me, it is my window to the audience. It is my way of communicating something to them. So I've loved as a director getting to use the camera in different ways and getting to use the camera to do that in so many different ways. We are able on this show to do very bold things, which I'm very grateful for. And what we do at the end of episode 2 is very bold. I'm like trying not to spoil anything, but, with the breaking of the fourth wall kind of thing, that's a very bold thing to do on television. And luckily I'm given the freedom to do that kind of thing. And our actors are game and our actors are so incredible and they're so good. And that particular actor in that moment, oh my God, it gets me every time. Ugh.
Same.
It's just, she's phenomenal.
And as a director, there's a shot, and I've been asking everybody in the cast this today, there's a shot of June that then is juxtaposed with a shot of Serena. You're wearing white, she's wearing black. You're both looking in the mirror. And it made me think, what do characters on this show think when they look in the mirror? Like metaphorically, what do they think? Now that June has killed Fred, has her DNA changed? And how does she feel when she looks at herself in the mirror now? Who does she see?
Okay, first of all, Nikki, I very much appreciate you. It's very clear that you have watched these episodes and been very thoughtful about it. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I loved that scene and it's them getting ready for battle in their own ways. It's the white swan and the black swan. That's why our beautiful costume designer, Leslie Kavanaugh, put her in black and me in white. They're getting ready for battle. I think a woman getting ready is such an interesting thing to watch. Yeah. A woman looking in the mirror is such an interesting thing to watch because it's such a vulnerable moment and such a private moment. Yeah. And really about the two of them being in this vulnerable, private place alone, just completely alone, and yet linked, inextricably linked across time and space.
The decision, I know you and the two producers call yourselves the Triangle of Trust.
Me and Warren and Bruce. Yeah.
Yes. Was killing Fred always the way? Like, what was that conversation like? And how much do you miss Joseph?
Okay. Well, first of all, nothing is really always the way on our show. You know, our writer's room and Bruce are very good at letting things inform those episodes, letting seasons morph as we go along. And it's incredibly collaborative. And there's a lot of back and forth. So nothing is ever certain. But I think in the end, when we got to a certain place, Fred had to go. You know what I mean? He had to go. There has to be some justice. There has to be some justice on this show. And then to answer your second question, desperately miss Joseph. Desperately. He was such a wonderful, he is such a lovely human. So the opposite of Fred. You wouldn't even believe it. And a family man and his beautiful wife and beautiful children. And he's just the loveliest man. And we all miss him so much. We would talk about it a lot this season. Yeah. I want to bring him back. I hope we can bring him back. There's flashbacks, right? Come on.
June Osborne is a cancer. We have to cut her out.
There are consequences for disobeying God.
Blessed be this day.
One of the big themes, I think, this season, from what I've watched, is tables turning. And when somebody starts in one position, they end up in the polar opposite. Without spoilers, this happens a little bit with Janine this season and her relationship, particularly with Aunt Lydia. So can you, without spoilers, can you sort of talk about your process as an actress and that sort of shift, that dynamic? How fun was that for you to play?
It was amazing. It was it's a totally different Janine than I've ever done. And I feel the same every season, really. Every season I'm like, oh, this is a totally different Janine, and getting to explore new sides of her is always, the most rewarding work. But this season, with the kind of tables turning with Janine and Aunt Lydia, I think we see a side of Janine this season that is stepping more into I don't want to say the role of June, but more into the energy of June. She's obviously been heavily influenced by her friend June. And that certainly makes tables turn a little bit for Aunt Lydia. And as an actor, it's just marvelous, to try on a new kind of attitude and point of view for a character that you've been with for so long, that you love so much, and seeing them kind of step into their power in a way. It's like seeing a really great friend break up with a terrible boyfriend or something, It's like, oh my God, finally, look at you valuing yourself. It's really cool to watch her know she has power. I think Janine has always known that she has power, but to see her embrace it and to use it to try and help other handmaids, is really wonderful.
Your answer had me, now I have 10 more questions to ask you. But I'm asking everybody today, and maybe it's a little more complicated because of what you just said. What do you think the word or the emotion is, or the core of who Janine is, whether it's love or whether it's, what is her at her core? What is the word that you would use now that you've spent 5 seasons with her? What drives her, motivates her into action?
It is love. But just more specifically than love, it's friendship. I also like loyalty. Janine is fiercely loyal. I think she's a Taurus moon, personally.
What does that mean? I know what it means, but what is a Taurus moon?
Taurus moon. So that is how you handle your emotions, your moon sign.
Okay.
It's how you process your emotions. For example, I have an Aries moon, so I'm just a raging bitch. I'm just kidding. But I think that Janine's emotional heart is deeply loyal to the people that she loves. I would describe her as loyal.
What do you think Janine's outside world would be like outside Gilead with her newfound attitude? What kind of life do you think she could carve for herself?
That's a hard one. It's really hard to think about, because my immediate feeling is that I don't want to believe that she is too far gone. She's seen too much, and too much has happened, especially throughout this last season. I'd like to think that Janine just wants a simple life, I think, really.
Mm.
She wants friendship. She wants to be loved. She wants to give and to receive love. I mean, I don't think that Janine has ever wanted for anything more than that, even before Gilead. And I don't think that that has really changed. I think that's also something that we've seen her seek throughout the seasons, is that she is looking for love. She's looking to give that love and to receive that love. It's why she's such a mother. It's just like, she is one of those people that was born to be a mom, to give all of her heart to something.
There's a mirror shot this season, not involving your character, but it made me think, who does everybody's character see when they look in the mirror? And maybe it's more metaphorical for Janine, but who does Janine see when she looks in the mirror at herself?
I don't think Janine spends a lot of time looking in mirrors. Also, because I think, the whole eye thing.
Yeah.
The whole other story.
Yeah.
I think that she, it always comes back to this for me. She sees her babies. She just misses her babies. I think, when we so much look like our parents, like I look at photos of, I just FaceTimed my mom yesterday and I was like, wow, we look so much alike. And I just you see it in yourself and in your children.
She can't get to you, so you just gotta forget about her.
So I finally got my wish this season. I have always been Team Luke and June, and we finally got to see that relationship because we saw a glimpse of it at the beginning of season 1. And then last season, it was a lot of, the trauma and the re-entry. This season, we really get to delve into the relationship. You have a meaty season. I'm so happy for it. And there were so many brilliant moments. I just wanted you to talk as an actor, how that was for you, getting a chance. And when I saw the direction they took it in, I was like, of course, this is the way it had to go.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Team Luke. No, you know what? It's the best bit about it, to be honest, for me, is getting to work with Lizzie Moss. Like, she is just so great. And, I love working with all the actors on the show. But there is something, she's just so special to work with, especially when she's directing. And I don't know, it's just like a discovery. There's a sense on set that we're unpacking it and understanding it in real time. And you're capturing that on camera. And I just love it.
And also, last season, he really very much walked on eggshells with her because he wasn't sure. It was and this season, he says how he feels and they get to the heart of it. They strip everything away.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was really cool, too, is that you sing this season.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But you sing this season. Are you always singing offset and they just finally put it on camera or not really? And how did that sort of come about that you were singing? It's beautiful.
Thanks. Well, you know what? I've got another show on Hulu called Max, MAXXX, where I play a singer. It's a comedy, very different type of show. And I think sometimes what happens, it kind of seeps into writers' heads, and they're and so they put it in, and it's a really. I personally think it's a really I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think it's a really nice moment. Like you say, it's kind of connected with June and Luke, and I think they found a way to put it in.
Oh, it was stunning. It was one of my favorite moments. How does Luke reconcile the fact that June killed Fred? Does it change at all the way he sees her? And is there anything? He is such a family man. He's done so much to be there for her. Is there anything in his mind, do you think, that could actually tear them apart or have him not fight for them as hard as he has been?
I think he's a stalwart, to be fair. I think, he's so in love with June, and I think he really just believes in his family and believes in making that work. But I don't. It's really hard because when these big things happen, like a war or you're kicked out or people are killed, your whole sense of morality could change. And so, of course, the idea of her killing Fred, you just killed another human being, that's a huge thing. But on the other side, it's her tormentor and abuser, and so he gets it.
So, do you think that anything could make his love for her waver ever, or no?
Well, I don't want to spoil where the season goes, but I can definitely say that Luke's love for June and Hannah and indeed Nicole is about as strong as any family man could have.
This is why I love him so much. I love him. What is it about June Do you think Luke gets better than anyone? And what do you think he still doesn't understand about her, if anything?
Luke still knows that playful, humorous June. That, you know, it's not humorous, but she's got a sense of humor to her, and I think he still sees it and tries to connect with it. I think the revolutionary, the that's hard for him to reconcile with.
Right. You talked about how you love it, especially when Elizabeth directs, and how you find moments. Is there anything you can tell me without spoilers, a moment that you two found together that sort of surprised you, unexpected, you're most proud of?
There is one that comes to mind, but it's a big spoiler. But I would just say that near the end of the show, everyone's gonna have their mind blown.
Serena doesn't know what happened. Doesn't matter what she knows. It matters what she believes.
I'm calling the two of you the dynamic duo. I know, Bradley, that you use that line when you're talking about Serena and Mark this season, but I truly think the two of you are the dynamic duo. You're starting to dress more alike. You spend so much more time together. You're starting, when people start to look like their significant other or you two are starting to sort of morph. Do you think that was like a conscious thing on the part of like in terms of like the look and sort of the feel?
For me, I just thought Nick needed a sort of addicted to love makeover. We're definitely, I don't know if it's we can't stay away from each other on set or off, and I think the writers just gave up and started writing to it.
I was thinking that this morning, Brad. I was like, I saw that we were doing all our press today together, and I was like, God, Brad must really regret becoming friends with me, because it's really just it's like he's really stuck in with me. It's a joy to work. It's a joy to work with him. It's so fun. If you told me, 5 years ago that I'd be working in this capacity of an actor I admire so much, I would have pinched myself. So it's a real blessing.
And you're both wearing black t-shirts today, I noticed, by the way.
We texted first.
Well, actually, Max is in this bed over. No.
If that had been the case, it would have been utterly brilliant. Bradley, your one-liners. Yes. I love Commander Lawrence's one-liners. I live for them. I love that the writers write this stuff for you. My favorite line of the entire season, when you say, and you're referring to Canadian favorite sport, hockey, you say, I love hockey. It's elegant, but brutal. Is Commander Lawrence really describing himself in that statement?
I thought he was playing with Serena. Is the maple, I haven't seen it. Is the maple leaf joke in there?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to say that our liberal, non-athletic, wonderful writing team in LA. Originally, the line was, "Looks like the Leafs are going to do it this year," and I was like, "You guys," and I'm from Wisconsin, so I know a little bit about hockey. I'm like, they never win. Like they haven't. So I think we changed the line to something like they're going to break everyone's heart again, and I was proud of that writing change. And I still do not understand how Toronto, beautiful, massive Toronto, in a country that is just hockey mad, has not managed to win a Stanley Cup since I was in first grade.
Well, I am Canadian. I am from Toronto, and I'm in Toronto right now, so I understand, even though I live in LA. Max.
Yes.
Do you think that Nick and June could ever have a healthy relationship? And does it change the way he sees her because she killed Fred?
So to answer your latter question first, no, I don't think it changes how he sees her. I think he's sort of attracted to that part of her.
Okay.
Oh, it's hot. It's hot.
Yeah. It's hot.
Murder is hot.
Do we have a future? I mean, look, as I allow myself a certain naivety, you know what I mean? A certain optimism that may be misguided. I have no idea. I hope so. But I'm somebody who, as a watcher of the show, and I'm not just saying this to be diplomatic, I'm incredibly sort of drawn towards the Nick and sort of the Luke and June relationship too. And I don't know if I was to vote as an audience member which way I'd want that to sort of play out, or if she necessarily needs either man in her life.
Wow.
So of course, as the person who plays Nick, I am advocating for him, but I don't know what decision she'll make, and I don't know what decision she needs to make. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, my very last question to both of you is, who do you? There's a mirror motif in this season. It doesn't involve your characters, but it made me think: who do you see? Who does your character see when they look in the mirror? Like, what do they think about themselves? Who do they see? And for each of you as actors, the end game, even though you don't know where the writers are going, do you want your character to go out in a blaze of glory, like a fiery death, or do you want your character to have a happy ending?
I want Nick and Lawrence to ride off into the sunset. To get some animals. I think that's what would make us happy. Just some space and some animals.
Some space and some animals. Yeah, I'm just laughing about, we joke a lot on the set. It happens a little bit with Serena this year about the Bachelorette Gilead edition. Yeah, you may not get a rose, but when you get kicked off, you get put on the wall. I think it's an interesting idea. For the show. To answer your question, as a fan of the show, playing this character, I have an idea of when you say look in the mirror. I think that June has blown on the spark of decency in both of us. At the same time, the last thing this particular story needs is a male hero. So I tussle with that. I have a lot of hopes where, I want Lawrence to go, but I don't know if that's going to be the direction it goes, or if he is capable of that or should be.
Nick doesn't seem like a guy who looks in the mirror a lot to me. It doesn't, in a metaphorical sense or a literal sense. I don't think that he's somebody who wants to do a huge amount of self-examination.
Yeah, he just happens to look like this.
No, I don't think. I don't. He doesn't strike me as like a particularly introspective person, which is actually kind of different to me. Who's completely driven by ego and self-involvement. So there's something actually kind of liberating about playing somebody who's much more straightforward.
His journal entries are very
straight. That's very. It's like Hemingway.
Yeah, cold today.
Yeah.
My job is to protect you.
Don't you dare tell me you can protect me from her.
The first question I'm going to ask is sort of something the both of you can answer. I'm asking everybody in the cast today, now that you've spent so many seasons living in your character's skin, what do you think the core emotion that drives your character is? Like, is it love? Think Inside Out, those pure emotions that sort of defines who they are.
I'm actually thinking literally of the Inside Out characters. And I'm like, well, I'm not sadness, nor am I joy. So I have to find something in between.
Mark's a mystery.
Yes. Yeah, Mark, whatever Mark's emotions are, he has to guard them. And I think it's for the sake of, this country, what's left of this country that he loved, and trying to regain democracy and all the wonderful things that, go along with that. So whatever emotions Mark has, I think he kind of doesn't let out until he gets back to his apartment in Toronto.
Yeah, I want to know what he does at night.
I think he's pretty lonely. I think he's got, refugee friends and, but I think he probably keeps to himself.
I think I would say empathy. I think that Rita at the beginning, when we first meet her in season 1, is not the warmest person. That's because I think she has an incredible amount of empathy and feels everything so tremendously. And as we begin to peel away the layers, we really see her fight to forgive Serena, fight to forgive Fred. Even the way she sort of dismisses Fred is with empathy. And even coming to this season, and she's still empathetic with June wanting to just go back and burn Gilead to the ground, but she also wants to move forward. So she has an extremely tough exterior, but inside, I think she's just probably one of the most empathetic characters.
Sam, I have a question for you, and I'm going to be hard-hitting with this one. Why does he indulge Serena? Why does he keep indulging her? Do you ever look at the page and go, why? Why are you doing this?
I think this season, I think there's a couple of times where Mark has gotten himself into in trouble, just allowing Serena to go an inch a little closer towards, you know, her need to control. But you know, I think Mark is kind of enamored with who Serena was before Gilead, and I think this season, more than any other, he's realizing just how far she is from that. You know, these desperate times for Serena, she's a survivor and she's a warrior, much like June. And, you know, I think he realizes that she's going to do whatever means necessary to ensure her survival. And that's a very dangerous person to be in close contact with, for sure.
I told you last season, I think they look at each other with love me eyes. I don't know what it is. It's like the forbidden fruit that he should never go after. But does he have romantic feelings that could have ever come into play had she maybe gone down a different path? Yeah,
I mean, we may see a little bit, you know, just glimpses of that this season. But it's such a dangerous relationship. I think they're attracted to how calculating one another is. But yeah, this is, there's a clear line in the sand this season for sure.
Amanda, you have a scene, Rita has a scene with June in the kitchen, and I'm not spoiling anything by saying that she says to June, like, I live with trauma too, even though I wasn't a handmaid. And it is such a beautiful scene. I love the way you played that scene. It was incredible. Can you talk about the other thing I noticed about Rita? She's still in the kitchen a lot. She's still helping and you know what I mean? Like, so is that part of the trauma that she hasn't been able to escape, do you think? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we do have a running joke. Elisabeth is always looking for banana bread as a prop for me to carry whenever we start a scene. But it's familiarity. That was her purpose, her sole purpose for years under the most horrific circumstances. And in order to survive Gilead, she had to really excel in the kitchen. And so you don't just shake it that easily. Last year, we saw that there was a bit of sort of shell shock. She just stayed there because it was really the only thing she knew. And this year, I think her relationship with the kitchen she's beginning to find joy again, beginning to find purpose outside of Gilead. But I agree with you. I'd love a scene in a bathroom, like a living room. There's some, not spoiling, but yeah, there's a lot of kitchen stuff.
Okay, real quick. Who do you think your character would least want to go up against and be on the bad side of, June or Serena? Because Serena, there's a shot of her doing yoga. She's a very understated, poised villain, where June has rage. Who would your character least want to be on the bad side of?
Can I go C, none of the above?
Sure.
These are two very headstrong women and so passionate and fiery. And, you know, it's what makes them such fascinating doppelgangers in our series is that, man, they just both hold so much weight, not just as, you know, characters, but those two actresses that Amanda and I get to go to work with. They're just amazing. You know, they're amazing people to be around. So I gotta say,
I would say June. No,
yeah.
Nope. No, thank you. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Even doing the scene in the kitchen where I do have to push back against her, I was terrified. No. And I am a good foot taller than June. So, but no, thank you. I will take Serena any day.
I pray for our children. May they live a life without all of this hate. Dear God, may they do better than we did.
Season 5, to me, when I think of a theme, I think tables turning. where somebody's station in life began some way in season 1 and now in season 5, and relationships take a 180 in terms of power dynamics, the character's station in life. And then visually, you show it by juxtaposing two scenes together, like June wearing white, Serena wearing black, like somebody taking a bath, somebody being dirty. I'm wondering for you, I know you have your triangle of trust between the two of you and Elisabeth when you have these meetings. How did this sort of take place? How did you decide that this is the way season 5 would be shaped?
I think it's a combination of things. It really does start kind of with the writers in the writers' room, talking in very big ways about what we could do in the season and big themes. I mean, I think we're not afraid to talk and think about themes. But I also think a lot of it comes from having initial rougher conversations with Warren and Lizzie. And then when Lizzie is not just acting, but also directing, you have these preliminary conversations, but when you get to the end of it and you drink the whole season, it's different. And I think that's what you want. So what you're trying to do is not say it's going to mean this. I think what I'm always trying to do is Warren and me and Lizzie and all of the writers, we have interesting conversations about stuff that June is going through this season, put all of that together. And then when you see it, when it's all together, look at it and say, wow, water was a really big theme. This was a big theme. That was, turning tables, taking each other, people on the top, or it's an expression from the Civil War of a former released slave when he saw his owner coming down the street, said, he was talking about a fence rail. And he said, the bottom rail's on top now.
You're not afraid to take big swings, like you said. Was there ever any hesitation to have June kill Fred, take her out of Gilead, and then location? You're very much on location more than you ever have been. Or is there ever hesitation between the three of you? Was Elisabeth ever reluctant to perhaps have her character kill Fred?
Never. I mean, she first of all, I don't, it would be wrong, even though these guys are my creative partners, to float things as possibilities to my main actor. That's just not cool, because to say you might do this and you might do that makes it harder for her to make a realistic person. So so I try not to, I try to talk to Lizzie and talk to everybody, and then you really try to get it down in the script. So that when they get in the script, it's much more solid. I don't think we get to the point where Lizzie or anybody would balk, because those conversations are ongoing. And also, hopefully, and this is something, Warren and I both do, when you watch the cuts, you see what they're doing, and then you go back and talk to them about do this more, do that more, push in this direction and that direction. We've been doing this long enough, and I think the most effective part of our process is the communication between the cast and the writers and the producers, that it's open and comfortable, and everybody's a grown-up and a professional, and everybody just wants to make a great show for Nikki.
And you do.
One thing I would say is it's a tribute to Joe Fiennes that he lasted 4 years. There's other actors we probably would have said, let's get rid of them sooner. And we couldn't. We had our own addiction to Fred Waterford and to Joe and what he brought to that. And we stretched it as long as we could. But ultimately, we were waiting for that, and the audience celebrated it. So we started off this year with, all right, June, now deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it isn't, in TV, the TV goes off and you go back to your stuff, but the people in TV still have their lives. So June, even if the show ended, she'd still have to deal with it. I'm interested.
I know, Warren, you've contributed, you did Cheers, you did Seinfeld. Those are the shows that we need to watch after we watch The Handmaid's Tale to go to sleep.
That's true.
Do you ever watch any of those your own shows before you go to bed working on this show?
Let's face it. Not just The Handmaid's Tale, the world we live in is difficult. So I celebrate sports because I have to pull myself away from news. I have to get something else in there where I can be joyful. But I think, we're doing it, I think, a really compelling human drama that is first and foremost about the battle for feminist rights. And that relevancy, our audience keeps standing up and saying, we need it, we want it. And yes, we also all need and want in our lives to laugh. And I go back to those comedies as well.
Yeah. My last question is for you, Bruce. I know that Handmaid's Tale book has been stewing in your brain since you were about 20, maybe even younger, and that you have said you have the end game in sight for this, the way the series is going to end. I'm a Canadian. I grew up reading her book. It was required reading in school.
Sure.
Does that change much? I mean, I know the seasons probably morph and shift like you talked about earlier, but does the end game ever change in your brain? Obviously, I don't want to know what the end game is, but does that ever change for you? Is it ever in question or in flux?
I think the end game does change, not in kind of what's going to happen, but the manner in which things are going to happen. And the book is really, I mean, you read the book, I read the book. All you want to know is what happens at the end. I mean, the end, it kills you. You know, when I originally got the job, everyone was like, well, how can you go on from that book? I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, I've wanted to since I was 20. Find out what happens after the light. She gets up in the van, it's over. So I think that, you know, I was a big kind of fan of kind of moving it, forward. So I forgot your question again. I didn't write it down.
Does the end game change?
Oh, does the end game change? But I think that remarkably, it stayed very, very close. And I think that's because of Lizzie and I had talked about it, had been having conversations about where we want her character to end very early on. Just, I don't know what we were hoping for, maybe a big hit. But so I think that we've been very much on the same page and revisited it a ton over the years. So I'm sure it's changed a lot from our first conversation,
right.
but it really has remained kind of the same set of circumstances and where we want everybody to end up, and, you know, kind of the ways and the manners change.